there hasn't been a ton to get excited about in terms of Xbox this year. I mean, yeah, I think the game slate has been pretty awesome, but overall, I feel like, it has not been like this ultra amazing situation for Microsoft. It's been very confusing for sure. I look at what's going on and I just say to myself, yeah, it's been a bit of a confusing time for everybody. And if you're a gamer, if you're a fan of Xbox, then you should take heart in, hey, you have an Xbox, it's going to be good for the foreseeable future. Game Pass is a heck of a deal, and it's just one of those things that everybody, I think, kind of has to take a different look on it. Like, you can be positive about almost every situation, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like you can be that kind of person. For me, I tend to skew a little bit on the more negative side. I just feel like if I had not invested so much into Xbox this generation, it wouldn't be as big a deal to me, the stuff that's going on that's negative. But it's hard to kind of let go. I think when it's your money at stake, then I think that makes things a little bit different. But this is good news. I know there's going to be a lot of gamers that are happy about this, so we might as well get into it. Y'all know who I am. I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I certainly appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel and it means a lot to me personally. Again, I do daily gaming content, so if you guys are looking to get somebody that's fun yet informative, look no further. I have a lot of fun with, all that kind of stuff and things like that. So, with that being said, what's the big deal? Now, this is like one that eludes Microsoft. I always kind of talk about sometimes like there's games that skip Xbox. That's always a drag, like you don't want to see games skipping the platform. You want to see games kind of, make the platform. Even if they're not games that you particularly are interested in, like I hate to be that guy, but it's just like, yeah, if you're an Xbox fan, you should be excited for the games, and I get that not everybody's me, and that's something that I think probably a lot of people don't really understand. But yeah, that's basically how I kind of look at this. And now, like I said, this is extremely good news. It looks like Final Fantasy games are finally starting to come together. And I think that's something that everybody should be pretty excited about at the end of the day. And I don't know what the wait is, to be honest with you. It is sort of weird that we're not seeing some of these kind of games come across here or whatever. And for me anyway, like, I'm not a terrible person when it comes to like some of these games or whatever, but like I said, Square Enix is doubling down on plans to release games on Xbox. It was actually last year they announced that there's an aggressive new multi-platform strategy that would see more games being released on more platforms, including Xbox, and the company has doubled down on that once again. In the latest Square Enix financial report, there's once again a reference to this strategy said to be a part of a medium-term business plan that spans the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025 through the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. And I quote, "For HD titles, the group will aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, especially in regards to major franchises and AAA titles, including catalog titles. It will build an environment where more customers can enjoy our titles. In addition, it will also devise a platform strategy for SD titles that include not only iOS and Android, but also possibility of PC launches. Furthermore, the group will strive to maximize the acquisition of new users when launching a title and that of recurring users after starting management of that game." So anyway, of course, there was a time when Square Enix seemed to be skipping Xbox with the vast majority of its new releases. but things have improved a lot since then, especially following a renewed emphasis on the relationship with the company. Not everything that Square Enix has released in the recent years has appeared on Xbox, though, and in particular, everybody's still waiting on a bunch of Final Fantasy titles that have now even been confirmed for Nintendo Switch 2, but not Xbox as of yet. To me, it doesn't make sense for it not to be announced for Xbox. Like, if Microsoft is holding this, like, a 5-year-old game, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, if they're holding that back for, like, their big showcase, I don't know if that bodes well for them having a great showcase. Like, at that point, who cares? I mean, even if it drops day one into Game Pass, like, who really cares at that point? Like, I just feel like at the end of the day, 5-6 years, like, at that point, is there anybody that's going to really care about that game actually going to to Xbox? Maybe, I'm sure, that's something that realistically, people will have to kind of come to terms with on their own or whatever. But it kind of is what it is, and we'll see. Again, I'm sure that there's people that'll be thrilled to see these games end up in in a place like Xbox or Game Pass or whatever. I mean, I guess if they come to Game Pass, that could be a little bit of an announcement. Hey, they're finally, but it's like last to the party or whatever. I mean, is it really going to mean anything? At that particular point, I think that's the probably the biggest question that you have going forward. Is it going to mean much to the average gamer? I mean, certainly is. It's like, I think the main thing is like Microsoft. We've all seen that. The games have kind of died down in terms of the Game Pass growing and things like that. Like, it's not as big a deal as it was, some years ago, obviously during the scamdemic and things. But, how do you get people to kind of get back into, into the stratosphere? I think, well, one of the things that you could do is, have great games. I'm not sure if this is one of those things, but, they are on a bit of a tear lately. So realistically, anything can happen. I guess we'll wait and see how this all works out. Again, Microsoft has, come a long way in some regards, but obviously there's going to be always a situation where, gamers are going to be fickle or like, there's a lot of gamers out there in the world like me that actually want to own their games and things like that. So, I guess we'll have to see. I'm excited to see what some of these announcements could be. I still think Microsoft at the end of the day has to understand that that gamers are kind of there's a lot of different types of gamers, and you either are okay with what's going on or you're not. But I feel like if Microsoft really is hell-bent on both having hardware and not having any exclusives, I feel like they probably should have some kind of idea or something to where if you buy an Xbox, you're at least getting something of value thrown into the mix. And that could be pretty much anything, really. We'll see how that kind of works out, but I would love to see Microsoft kind of work out a way to keep people invested on the Xbox platform. I just think that it would have to be more than Game Pass, because so far we have seen that Game Pass hasn't really necessarily done the things that that probably Microsoft wanted them to do. I mean, Microsoft had this whole idea that they would have 70 million saved up by now, and the fact that they don't, I think that really kind of says a lot. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, Microsoft, they're constantly changing. Xbox, it's not what it used to be, but is it going to be able to do anything that is going to changed gaming world. Is that going to be something that can happen? Are they going to be able to kind of get people still amped up about their hardware, their platform, Game Pass? Is there anything that can really change the course of what's set in motion? I think that is the part that a lot of us kind of question. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Rack 'em up. Crep Gamer out.